Hi, everybody. So last week I did an episode or a live session. That was the energy of elements. And there was a lot of information trying to squeeze into a short period of time. So I decided to do a series on the elements, doing one at a time. And it'll actually be this is the first of 9. The last one has 3 combined into it. And then possibly I'll add a 10th to round it all out. Hi, Chris. So I did lots of notes about the element of metal, because this is one that I'm not real familiar with myself, so I needed to look more into it. And the purpose of doing these is helping to integrate various teachings about the different elements and bring it all together so that it gives us a much more rounded picture, as well as how these elements are a part of us, a part of our environment, and help us to be more balanced and whole in our living each of these lifetimes on this planet, as well as assisting the planet itself. So that's kind of my goal with this. I did lots of notes. And there I go, pink. Hi, Laura. So today's session is about metal. But I have to share something with you guys first. I had the most interesting dream last night because I had been working on this most of yesterday. And when I went to bed last night, I was kind of like, how in the hell am I going to put this all together? How does it relate between Earth and us? I rarely remember my dreams, but I got them to help me to remember some important bits of the one that I went into last night. Preta and Ezra, who are my guides, they took me on a journey into Earth. It was the most interesting thing I've ever seen. And we're passing by tree roots and everything, and we start getting into these deeper layers. And they were showing me different crystal beds and water beds and all of this. And we went down into the core. And I woke up at 3:11 with this image, looking at the core of the Earth. And it was fiery hot, and it was beautiful colors, and it was just swirling and moving. And I remember hearing this voice talking to me. And it wasn't Preta's voice, it was a woman, but it was so soft and so serene. And she said, everything that is within me is within you and all of the living creatures on my planet, on my being. So as much as all of these elements are a part of me, they are a part of you. And for both of us to thrive and continue to bloom, harmony and balance should be found between the two. And I thought, wow, that's a trip. That's cool. So that was kind of my, oh, okay, all right, I get it. So, cool, Laura. It's a good time for some cool stuff to be going on. So let's dive into the element of metal. And I have lots of notes on metal, a lot more than I thought I would, right? So, and these are all different kinds of teachings that are going to be brought together, because one thing my guides keep telling me is integrate the teachings. They're all correct. They all have parts that aren't correct, but the more that we start integrating them into how we work with ourselves and our environment, the more harmony and balance we can bring in. And I need to grab a black tourmaline for my computer. The spirit is messing with it. There we go. Much better. It helps. Every little bit helps. Hi, Tina. Glad to see you. Okay, so we're going to get in first on some of the various teachings about metal. So the archetype of metal is the alchemist. And the power of the alchemist is to create great things from small materials. Right? This is, every element has a yin and a yang organ within our body. So the yin is the lung for metal, our lungs. And if you think about it, our lungs also relate to wood, also relate to air, and a whole bunch of other things, right? So the time that this channel, meridian channel, is from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. So that's its, yin is its masculine. Yeah, anyway. The yang organ for working with metal is the large intestines and the colon. And the best time for this is 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in our body cycle. And if you think about it, when are we processing most of our food? During the night. That's why we always hear about don't eat so late, because it's very difficult on the body when it's in its downtime, restorative sleep. Well, there you go. The large intestine is having to take everything processed from the small intestine and bring it all the way through the digestive system to the colon. Okay? The color for metal, white, gray, silver, and gold. Pretty incredible, because when you start looking at that, and we're going to get into those pieces a little bit more, we tend to always relate white to spirit, right? But white is also metal. White is also earth energy. So there you go. Gold, silver, grays, and whites are the type of colors to use when you're wanting to work with more metal energy. This one I love, because whoever thinks of metal actually relating to our emotions. The emotion, the negative emotion for metal element is sadness and grief. Never thought of that, huh? And the positive emotion for metal element energy is courage. There's always a yin and a yang. There's a positive and a negative. But this is all part of us. And we don't think about these things as having the metal element actually integrated in our being. We always see it as something external from us, but it's not. Everything external is internal. Everything internal is external. The sound, the human sound for the metal element is weeping. And we would think that that's like a bad thing, but it's actually a very powerful sound when we cry. It releases emotions. It's processing and allowing all of the body to engage. And when I'm speaking of the body, I am speaking of all 4 layers of the body: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Okay. Hey, Johan. So for metal, it's the sense of smell, right? Now, there's some people with the clair for smell, and I had it written down before, and I forgot to write it down today. But there is actually one of the abilities is a heightened sense of smell, where you might be smelling tobacco smoke that doesn't exist in your house, or someone's perfume. Spirit can use smell as one of its attributes to connect to us to get those messages. And it is one of the clairs. It's just a heightened sense of smell versus the fifth sense, more 3D depth of smell that we're so used to. The element of metal, what does it flourish in the human body? Hair, body hair. And we all kind of go, oh, body hair. I'm tired of shaving my legs. I know I am. I'm 50. I've been shaving them bad boys for years, right? Excuse me. But it's not just body hair. Our hair on our head is body hair, people. Just because it resides on our head doesn't mean that it's not body hair. It's body hair. So working with the elements of metal, you can also enrich your hair. It nourishes the skin. The metal element nourishes our skin. Its flavor on the tongue is pungent. Oh, and I see I froze. Ooh, I froze for a second. So let me say that again. The flavor on the tongue is pungent. That is the metal element flavor that we have. Its season is autumn. And I know everybody is like, but wait. I thought that one of the other ones was autumn. Isn't earth element autumn? Isn't water element autumn? Yeah, I think it's water. I'd have to look back here. I believe it's water. Yes. So the water element is also related to autumn. But so is metal. And there's a good reason for that. We're going to get into that. Don't worry. That's coming. Its direction is west and northwest. Okay, so we're very used to seeing that. Wait, I wrote down I missed my note. That the water element is also west. Yes, it is. But there can be more than one element to a direction. Okay, and that's kind of one of my points in all of this is that the more we blend different teachings, the more wholesome we can be, not only for ourselves, but for the environment around us. So one of the other things is some other emotions that I wanted to talk about that are linked to the metal element. Righteousness, the ability to let go. Oh, hey, we all work on that one, don't we? Sometimes we do good with it, and sometimes we really suck at it. But when you're wanting to work on the emotion of letting go with different things, you're going to want to work with more of the metal element energy. And there's lots of ways of doing this. It's also internal resolve, receptivity, and purity. That's a lot, but we don't think about it too much when we're just thinking of metal as, metal pipes that we're used to in our houses, right? So then if you get into traditional Chinese medicine and work with meridians in the body, right? They're the electrical currents that run through the body. You're exactly right, Chris. That's why copper helps so much with releasing grief. Yes. Very good. So when you take into consideration something like polarity therapy, traditional Chinese medicine, alternative teachings, they're not alternative, okay? These things have been around a lot longer than Western medicine. The metal element, okay, there again, we're doing 2 because yin and yang, all right? The 2 meridian channels that relate to the metal element. The first one is the lung channel. Surprise, surprise, right? Because metal relates to the yin organ of the lung. And where is that channel? That channel starts right about here and it goes all the way down to here. There's 12 points, or 11 points actually. The lung channel is 11 points. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the lung channel governs qi. What's qi? Energy. Hello, qi. It controls respiration, controls the skin, regulates water passage, body fluids. Think about your kidneys, right? And to house the corporeal soul. So when you're wanting to get your soul energy to be a little bit more calm in your physical body, and some of us can relate to this, that you kind of shifted in and out a lot, you can work on the lung channel, and it's different points. You can look it up. I'll scan the pictures later and post them in the event category on my page so you can look at them. But there are points on that meridian to help you work with the soul energy being more seated within the physical body. Okay. The lungs are the most exterior of the organs, and they're most sensitive to influences such as wind, heat, fire, cold, dampness, and dryness. So the lungs are pretty sensitive little babies in there, you know, but they also look like a tree. And I love that because that's where you can see that the metal element interacts with the air element because we need oxygen, works with the wood element because trees create our oxygen, right? And the lungs, if you look at the bronchi in the lungs, they look like trees, okay? But its primary element is truly metal. The lung channel, if you're wanting to work on this line, the meridian, it helps to work with different conditions such as insomnia, weakness, night and day sweats, fevers, headaches, body aches, and any kind of skin condition. You would want to work with lung channel, and you want to work with metal elemental energy forms. Make sure I'm not losing all my pages. It looks like I'm reading a lot. It's because I did like tons of freaking notes. So we know that lung is the yin, large intestine is the yang for metal elemental energy within our bodies. So the large intestine channel, that meridian starts from the side of your nose, goes down the face, down this arm, okay? And if the large intestine channel, its function is to receive food and drink from the small intestines to excrete waste of food materials, right? So if we're overloading it, we're going to have an upset stomach, right? Clogged intestines. That's when you're going to want to end up balancing that out. That's very true, Chris. Thank you. Chris mentions that metals such as magnesium and zinc help reinforce the lungs. Yes, they do. And we're going to talk about some of those that are in our body. The large intestine, it's most sensitive to cold and damp. And if you're going to use these points that are from, it starts here and goes down this side of the body, this left arm, you're going to be working on things like urinary disorders, vomiting, digestive problems, fevers, abdominal pain, those kinds of things. You can work on those trigger points of that meridian to help ease them and help your body process better. It means you're probably high in some of the metal elements within your body. Some of those there, again, let's talk about that. I'm going to break right there from it before I move into Reiki teachings. Okay? Because in Reiki, metal isn't in the list. Not in the list. But that's okay, because we're putting it in the list. And Chris brought up a great point. Magnesium and zinc. Now, I'm a person that suffers from cervicogenic headaches, which means that I had severe trauma to my upper spine that was not treated, and then they create severe headaches. Magnesium is a natural part of our body, and we need it. But if you're a person that suffers from headaches, you may need to look at your magnesium levels and add more in. Another fantastic metal that is in our body that we cannot live without, iron. Yoo-hoo. Iron is a part of our blood. And if you're someone like me, if I'm not getting enough iron through my diet, I'm anemic. And that's a lot of people, right? A lot of people get anemic, and we're kind of like, why am I anemic? Well, because you're eating foods that are rich in iron. I can't take a supplement. I just can't do it. It messes my body up. So I have to end up, in turn, making sure that I'm considered borderline, because I maintain it right at that level. My body doesn't like to absorb it, so I have to work on ways of absorbing more through foods. A lot of your green vegetables, high in iron. Men, let's talk men. Men need zinc. Guess what? Zinc, testosterone. Hello. It's also important for women. So not only is it great for the lungs, but it's very important for the male hormonal system to stay in balance, especially as aging occurs, to use zinc. Either eating foods rich in zinc or adding a supplement of zinc. Very important. There's a lot of different metal elemental energies that are very important in our body's function. And the more that we're able to keep balance in all of them, not just inside the body, external of the body, environmental, globally, the better homeostasis for the individual and the collective. Okay? So let's talk about Feng Shui a little bit, because I dug into some Feng Shui yesterday, and I love Feng Shui as it is, but I'm not well versed in it. And I wanted to find out, well, what is teaching of the metal energy within Feng Shui? So the symbol in Feng Shui for the metal energy element is the circle. And I thought, wow, circle. And there again, the dream I talked about earlier, going to the core of the Mother Earth and seeing this huge glowing orb in the center that was just fantastic and unexplainable how beautiful the vision was. But circle, I should have known, right? So some of the gemstones related, oh, no, not what I wanted to say. Oops, rewind. Anyway, so some of the things related to the metal energy within Feng Shui are gemstones. Gemstones, crystals. Crystals come from earth. Yes, earth energy, metal energy. Shiny metals and subtle reflective surfaces all bring metal into your space. And the more I was reading, the more I was kind of cracking up, because who doesn't have pots and pans in your house that are made of metal? Now in Feng Shui, the area associated with the metal element is the far right from your front door. So you could put like a metal candle holder, a metal piece of furniture, maybe some chimes, something metal framed, something decorative that has metal included in it. It helps to balance the wood in your home. Because guess what? Homes are made from wood. If you have too much wood energy in your home, you need to counterbalance it with the metal energy to have a better flow, positive flow. Okay? We all talk about, God, why do I have bad luck? Why do I have these things? And Feng Shui is one of those teachings that helps you to balance your environment with yourself to bring more positive flow and abundance in versus the reaping. So the chi of metal creates more intangible, invisible energetic charge. Helps to create structure and boundaries in your life. Helps you to stay above the fray. When things around you seem to be getting out of control, you should be working with more metal elemental energies. Okay? And that comes from openspacesfengshui.com. I did put yesterday in the event tab, I posted some of the websites I was using. Okay, so if you're wanting to read up more, you can go and look there. So metal nourishes earth in the creative cycle. Metal nourishes water because as it liquefies, you can shape it, right? And metal is controlled by the fire element because heat and fire melt metal, which then we can reshape. So this is just giving a flow of how other elements interact with this element, okay? You're right, Chris. I was just saying yours about the decor, yes. So what's the negative side of the metal element? As my cat is knocking things off on the other side of the table. Metal destroys wood. So wood is against earth because roots of trees penetrate the ground. Earth absorbs water, which then defeats it. Water destroys fire, and fire destroys metal. See that cycle? That's the negative aspect, right? When you're wanting to work with it in a positive aspect, okay, because we want to be able to balance. Fire turns to earth because it creates ash. Earth produces metal. Metal becomes water as it melts into a liquid form. Water grows wood. See the cycle? Wood produces fire. That's when you're working in a nourishing cycle, positive. You're going in a flow of a circle versus the pentagram, okay? So, things that you can bring into your home to enhance the metal element energy in your environment. I love that they put pianos on there. These pianos have such an awesome sound, but they have several of the elements integrated into one. Wind chimes. Now, some people, like my husband, that doesn't like wind chimes outside. They start to bug him because he's very sensitive to sound. But there's other kinds of wind chimes that you can have inside your home. And I have one here that was a gift from a friend. And this is a chakra wind chime. I actually keep it above my kitchen sink because I'm balancing wood, water, and metal in that area. But they have a great sound, pure metal. We also have a little bit of wood added in. Got some nice gemstones in there. Okay. Kitchen bowls, pots and pans are all metal energy when you're cooking. So yeah, your cookware. And it does have them in feng shui that you should put them on the west walls, but a lot of us just can't fit that kind of stuff into our thing. But there's other ways of doing it. Maybe hang something that has a metal frame on it, like Chris had mentioned. But the more metal you can put on the west side or the northwest, right? I did say northwest before as well. Yes, west and northwest sides of your home. You're enhancing the elemental energy of metal into the connectivity of your environment, which then impacts your personal physical body. If you're putting it heavy metal, God, I don't want to use heavy metal. If you're using a lot of metal items in the east and southeast side of your house, like mine, my kitchen is in the southeast side of my home. Can't avoid having a lot of metal in there. Then I need to balance it with wood. And as you can see behind me, there's a lot of wood. This is my kitchen has a lot of wood in it. And it's trying to create that harmonic balance. So we've integrated more of the other elements into this room so that the house has more of a stable flow of all of the elements. And I'm talking all 11 elements because you can see altars behind me. So I want to get into a little bit of the astrology and the Wu Jing philosophy about the metal element because I think it's got some great valuable information for us that just kind of helps add in and blend. So we already know that its motion is inward, its yin is character, its energy is contracting energy. It's associated with autumn, of course, the west, old age, planet Venus, the color's white, dry weather, and it's the white tiger symbol in Wu Jing philosophy, which I find interesting. It's metals are silver and gold in that teaching, which we already discussed in most of the others. It's white, gray, silver, and gold. So, the more that you realize all these teachings, and I'm talking, some of these are over 5,000, 6,000, and even older than that, and we start bringing them in together, we end up getting a much better rounded homeostasis with working with the elements for ourselves. So Chinese Taoists thought that metal attributes to be firmness, rigidity, blah, blah, persistence, strength, and determination. Not bad characteristics of the human psyche, the mental body, and the emotional body. Some of us see them as negative. I see them as all useful tools for the human experience. It's just how we work with it. So knowing that those are part of that metal elemental energy, you start to not resist them so much. And this is important. Homeostasis as the least resistance. So don't fight those types of emotions, those types of thought, mental aspects. Allow them to be a part of you and work with it in a balance, and you'll feel a whole lot better. In Chinese astrology, okay, we hear, and that's such a totally different type of astrology than what most are used to. But in Chinese astrology, you are a yang metal person if your birth year ends in 0. And you are a yin metal energy person if it ends in the number 1. It governs the signs, the Chinese astrology signs of the monkey, the rooster, and the dog. So the more you're familiar with those in your own studies, the more you're able to expand it. And perhaps if you're more of that Chinese metal yin, you need to bring in more yang and adding in more of the other elements to bring homeostasis. See? So if you're more yang, you want to do the other, back to a 4. It's all balance. The planet Venus is associated to metal. And I was really kind of curious about this. And what the one site that I read up on, and I ended up finding it in a couple of them, the planet Venus is associated to metal because it is white in color, the Chinese color of death. I didn't know that. And rises in the west as the evening star. Isn't that gorgeous? I just think about that. So Venus rises in the west as the evening star. Its color is white. That's why it's related to the element of metal, which is also related to the element of water and earth. 3 together. In Vedic astrology, it's linked to Saturn. And I bring this up because I know that there's other people that might watch this video at a later time, and they're like, but wait a minute. Vedic astrology says this, and you're saying that. And I'm saying neither one is right and neither one is wrong. Use them both. What the fuck? Why not? So balancing with Venus and Saturn energy brings you a little bit more harmony. And that's one of our goals, is to become more harmonic within ourselves and our environment and each other as a collective. And in Vedic astrology, it's linked to Saturn on the grounds that it's associated with air. That metal and air have a strong connection. So getting a little bit more into Wu Jing philosophy, the regenerative cycle for metal. Earth engenders metal, as all metal has to be extracted from earth. And then metal begets water, as metal traps falling water. I find that very fascinating, because if you think about it, how does our body flow? So the more that we're able to bring elemental energy in our homeostasis of our physical being, the more we can bring the homeostasis to our planet's being, because our awareness of it changes how we interact with it, and it brings to the collective. In the conquest cycle, okay, so regenerative cycle, they're working hand in hand. Conquest cycle is how does it combat? So fire overcomes metal because fire and heat melts metal. Okay, it can be melted and forged. And then metal overcomes wood. And I found this very interesting. Metal overcomes wood. And in the teaching it says because metal can be forged by heat and fire into the axe. And the blade of the axe is able to topple the tree. But be careful, because if too many trees have fallen, the axe becomes dull. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of profound. So, am I really getting down into my last bit of notes? I'm just doing a quick double check because it looks like I am. Woohoo! Okay, so I want to talk about some gemstones because I love crystals. Don't we all? You know, you start getting into them and everybody's like, why are you buying all them rocks? I love rocks. I love crystals, I love rocks. Gotta get into that good stuff. Okay, so Eastern elemental gemstones for the metal element. Metallic in color, white, gray, silver, gold. Some of the excellent ones to work with for metal energy. Hematite. And we hear about hematite all the time, do we not? Everybody's like, oh, dealing with bad energy, get some hematite. Oh, need to work on the boundaries a little bit more, get some hematite. Right? We all hear it. We're like, it's a cheap, inexpensive, you find it in all kinds of jewelry, people take it for granted, and this is one of the best damn metal elemental stones to work with. We don't even think about it. We take it for granted. Pyrite, cat's eye, moonstone, and then there was one that I haven't heard of, Sillimanite. Sillimanite, yeah. Like, oh, okay. Other ones. So you can do like these kinds of little quartz. It's all clear white. Angel quartz or clear quartz. All of these others, I'll bring this one up a little bit better. I know I got a glare because I'm sitting by the window. Okay. Great stones for working with the metal energy. Something else that some people might be interested in, like this one, I use for charcoal burning. Sometimes just for cone incense or something like that as well if I'm being lazy. But notice that my incense burner is gold and it's all made of metal, it's brass. So I'm bringing in the metal element into a cleansing, because a lot of times I'll use this with Artie move. I'll combine this with resins and powders on the charcoal and even oils. So I can combine elements in with this. Yeah, Chris, this one was spelled Sillimanite. Haven't heard of it before. I'll have to look it up. Okay. Another thing that we take for granted and we don't think about, a lot of us like to work with pendulums, right? This is my personal pendulum. Chain, silver, metal energy. And it's working with my stone as the conduit. Now this one is this is my healing pendulum. Yeah, you're like, damn, that's a big ass crystal on there. But this one was made for me by my husband. The crystal came from a antique crystal chandelier and said that it needed to be with me. Now this one, because of what I use it for, it doesn't have a metal chain. Instead, it has hematite woven into the cord. And its base is hematite on the end of it. And that's because this is my healing pendulum when I work on clients by a distance or in person. This is the one I'm going to use to look at chakra spinning, or how the energy is flowing different meridians, things like that. So since it's got the clear quartz, right, white metal element, it's grounded with a red stone. It's enhanced with amethyst and then hematite to bring in the balance of the metal energy for the conduit that I'm using it for. So, very simple, but we take it for granted, don't we? Other things. In my juju bag, my personal juju bag. So if you excuse me for just a moment, I'm going to turn away from the camera and retrieve my personal juju bag because I want to bring something up particular. Yes, I keep my juju bag in my bra and in my pillowcase when I go to bed at night. That's where it lives. But what I want to show you is that when you're working, if you're wanting to incorporate more metal, and so you've already got some hematite in your bag, come on, untie. I have a lot of crystals in my personal juju bag. Okay, come on out here, babies. And that have higher copper content. Now, another thing you can do is taking a piece of copper wire. You know, we see it in all kinds of electrical wire. Is copper. You can take a small piece, bind it up so that it's not going to poke you, and add it to your juju bag, or add it to your altar to add in the metal element. And there's also what was I about to say? But those are great ways of amplifying your crystal's power, is by adding in copper pennies, a piece of copper, anything like that, because it amplifies the stones. And it also, you know, then your stones aren't overworking either. Pennies. Laura, you would use pennies. The older the penny, the better, because it's got more copper in it. Yeah. I also have clear quartz. And even my little Herkimer. It's hard to see a Herkimer, especially in this light. Herkimer diamonds. Okay. I have a lot of stones in my bag. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit more about the house, because this is something that impacts all of us. And we've already covered about the location, far right from the front door, balancing, how important it is to balance wood and metal, in the house. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't think about, your home that you spend the most time in, that all of your emotional being feels good or doesn't feel good in, that our homeostasis is connected to, is where we live. Whether it's a place you're renting, whether it's a place you own, it really doesn't matter. It's about the construction of the materials. The construction with the materials. Blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. So, whoops, I gotta put the pennies back in there. A home is living, breathing energy. A home has living, breathing energy. It has all 11 elements, 12 really, if you include the void, because I know Chris has got that out there going, Shannon, how come you're not talking? It is 12, it's got the void in there too. I don't know. So let's talk about that. Our home is also a footprint we leave on the earth. But we don't take it with us. It stays here, right? It can return back to the earth through its deconstruction, through its deterioration. So, the home environment impacts the internal environment of our physical beings. Your home is constructed from wood, from metal, from earth, from air, from every single element is incorporated in your home. Now, if your home is crying like ours was when we bought it, and you don't know why, you need to look at the internal system it has going on. What's wrong with it? Why is it so unhappy? For us, we ended up finding one major factor that was wrong with our home was the plumbing. And you wouldn't think of that. But there again, energy, elements, inward, outward. Whoever did the plumbing on our house, we had 5 different types of pipes. We had PVC plastic. We had some copper pipe. We had black pipe. We had a mess. We had a mess. The house, the energy of the home was very sad. It was distraught. It didn't have a balance. It didn't have positive flow. So one of the things we needed to do was address the plumbing. Because guess what? Water flowing through the house is a huge energy charger. And if the water flowing through shit piping, you're not getting a good positive flow, right? The water's coming internally to me, externally on my body, everything else. But it's going through this disaster that's not even legal. Let's not even get into that. But so we changed it. And my husband was like, we're doing all copper piping because it's a good investment, but it also changes the charge and the flow of the energy that the water is coming in from. We have well water. So changing that increased the charge of the water, changed the metal element energy in the home to something of a positive conduit. Right? So there we go. We're doing so we impacted the harmonics of the home, which in turn impacts the harmonic of all of the physical beings living within the home. From what we cook with, because of course we're using water out of our tap. The animals are drinking the water. we are, it's part of our table, right? So that changed the environment. We have a lot of wood in our house. We had very low metal element in the house. So we were beginning to bring more of a harmony between the wood and the metal by making that change. Another project that we've been doing little by little in our house is updating our wiring, the electrical wires. Electrical wires are made from copper. I'm married to an electrician. It's copper wire inside there. It's just different grades based on it. So your electricity in your home is a metal elemental energy conduit flowing through your walls, helping your electricity, bringing you electricity. So there again, you're wanting to balance it. If your frame structure is wood and you've got a lot of electrical